Okay, at 6 o'clock, we're going to get started, our September 10th Board of Commissioners meeting. Welcome everyone here. If you're a spectator, thank you for interest in county government. If you're an agenda item, I hope everything's favorable for you. Our invocation tonight and the pledge will be led by Commissioner Zach Crotch.
Bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight as a board, as a community, a county, in prayer that you lead this group, this 7 commissioners and everyone here tonight, and do your work and the work of our community. God, we also ask that you bless the victims of the hurricane that recently hit the Bahamas and part of America. As of this afternoon, 50 confirmed dead in the Bahamas and 4 in the United States. And God, there's countless others that are missing and injured. And please, we want to pray for their families and friends and hope that everyone can rebuild and enjoy their peaceful life again, not only here but also abroad. And God, we want to thank you for all the many blessings that you have bestowed upon Davidson County and our wonderful citizens. We have a beautiful park out here, corporate park. We're having jobs come. Our economy is doing well. And God, we thank you for everything that you have given us and yet to have given us. For that we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's time for our recognitions. Is Misty Scarlett here? She will be our representative of the Tomful Chamber tonight if she shows up. Other recognition, Matt Barber. Zeb, you want to?
Yes, sir. I've been looking through the crowd. Unless Matt's hidden behind somebody, I do not see him here.
If he's not here, he was supposed to be here tonight for Troy. Maybe something's come up.
Okay.
Do we want to possibly move this to the next meeting?
Yeah, let's move it to the next meeting. I like to have the folks here that we're recognizing. So.
All right, don't recognize Matt Barber. We're going to do it next meeting.
We didn't see him. We're not going to recognize him.
Okay. At this time, Commissioner Chris Elliott is at another meeting out of town, and I need to get him excused from this meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Verbally,
Yes.
all in favor? Okay, Chris is excused. If you want to register for public address, we got a sign-up sheet up here, and you still got time to come on up and sign it. That's not the public public hearings now. If you can speak at the public hearing, don't have to sign up. This is just for the public forum, public address. Also, I think there's might be some agendas up here. We're going to rearrange the agenda a little bit in a minute. The adoption of the agenda, we've got some public hearings tonight, and due to the anticipated length, we're going to ask that they be moved to the follow the deliberations a portion of the agenda. Also, Mr. Smith has asked that the transfer of paralegal from tax department to county attorney's office be added to the consent agenda as item 8.0. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Can I have a motion and a second to adopt the amended agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I have your vote, please. Thank you. All of the votes are in.
All right, now we have our public address. Kyle Thacker. Is it Kyle? Kurt. Come on up. Kurt, yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me back again. I did a little bit of thinking over the time away, and I did some digging on the county budget, this county, and I saw some things that you know kind of stood out. But I also want to mention too, Orange County, which is home to Hillsborough, they have a 7% kill at their shelter. And like I said before, my goal is to get that shelter to as close to a no kill. And in order to do that, I think we should increase the funding and also increase the attention going to that as leaders. The Orange County, they have 144,000 people in their county, and their budget is $2.2 million. That is 0.98% of their total budget going to their animal shelter. And like I said, 7% kill. Now, Forsyth County has a 67% kill rate, and they also have a budget over $2 million, and their budget is 0.54%. This county right here, unless I read it wrong, has a budget of $555,000 going to the animal shelter, which is a little bit over 0.4% of the total budget. And maybe I'm off, maybe there's money coming in from somewhere else, but that's just how I read the budget. And I would like to see more money going to that shelter. I would like to think that how people treat each other, how they treat the children, and how they treat their animals is definitely a reflection of the character of us in this county. I also feel, from what I've talked to people, there might be a disconnect between the shelter, the veterinarians, and the volunteers around here. And I don't understand that either. A little bit of animosity, some coldness when I talk to certain people, including the shelter director. And I would like to see everybody come together, because right now it's at the expense of these animals, and the animals don't deserve it. They should be taken care of. They're our pets. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Barney W. Hill.
Agenda item 9, Bravo. The Constitution Week proclamation doesn't mention the flag, which is all to the good because the Constitution doesn't mention the flag. But according to the cover sheet, 4 of the 5 items in the so-called Constitution kit will be all or mostly about the flag. Only 1 will be exclusively about the Constitution. But even that one will be just the preamble. The preamble is empty rhetoric without the body of the document. I recommend that the sponsoring organization scrap its kit and distribute instead shirt pocket booklets containing the complete text of the Constitution. Such booklets are available at a modest cost from sources like the Cato Institute. The first sentence of the Pledge of Allegiance is a lie. That flag was never meant to stand for the Republic. The flag stands for an overweening central government whose ambitions are antithetical to individual freedom. The Republic is quite capable of standing for itself, thank you. It does not demand that you participate in an idolatrous ritual. Reading the text I cited will be sufficient.
That ends our public address. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda for discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to table 8M and 8N and send it back to the I-85 Corporate Center for discussion, committee for discussion
Okay, so
or further discussion.
8M and 8N,
Yes, sir.
okay. Have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 8M and N.
I move to accept the agenda with the exception of M and N.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second.
I'm an owner. I did it.
I was trying to listen.
I'll make a motion, we, table 8M and 8N to a meeting following the I-85 Corporate Center, committee meeting.
Okay, if we.
I'll second.
Well, all right, consent agenda now is
Consent
approved.
agenda adopted by vote 6-0.
Okay, so M and N, you've asked it, it'd be,
Tabled to a meeting following, and I don't care, which meeting it is.
That would be, it would probably need to be at the second meeting in October, which would, unless we could add it on for that evening, because the meeting is actually on the next meeting.
That's fine. I don't know that it's time sensitive anyhow, so,
So October the 22nd?
yeah, that's fine.
okay, I got a motion and a second that we table it
Can we do this verbally, sir?
verbally. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Let's see where I'm at. Number 9. Okay, now with deliberations. Our first item on the deliberations is a proclamation for Library Card Sign-Up Month. And Commissioner Watford will read that, if she will.
Whereas a library card is the most important school supply of all. And whereas signing up for a library card is the first step toward academic achievement and lifelong learning. And whereas libraries play an important role in the education and development of children. And whereas library programs serve students of all ages, from early literacy to homework help to college research projects, and whereas librarians lead the way in creating inclusive spaces and developing diverse collections for children and people of all backgrounds to connect and learn together. And whereas libraries bridge the digital divide by providing a full range of information and services to children and adult learners. And whereas libraries continue to transform and expand their services in ways that meet the needs of the communities they serve. And whereas libraries open a world of infinite possibilities through resources and services to help people pursue their passions and give students the tools to succeed in school and beyond. And whereas the Davidson County Public Library System, through its 5 branches and bookmobile, had a door count of over 42,000 and circulation of over 56,000 items just in the month of July of 2019. Now, therefore, the Davidson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim September 2019 as Library Card Sign-Up Month and commends its observance to the citizens of Davidson County this, the 10th day of September 2019.
Okay. Sheila?
Motion to approve the second.
Yeah, that's right.
Karen's motion to approve.
I've got a motion and a second to approve. So,
You gonna put your motion?
Yes, motion to approve. Oh, I got to do this. Do that. Sorry. Wrong button. Punch the button.
All of the votes are in, and that motion carries 6-0.
Can I just say one
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna present it to you, and then you're gonna say it.
Okay.
You're gonna speak as long as you want to. As long as it's not over 3 minutes.
Holly Elementary School, her name was Miss Carol, and, I went there, all of them dreamed and dreamed, and I know that led me to a career in education, English, so thank you for what you do, and I love that bookmobile in the summertime, coming to my grandmother's house. Thank you so much. Thank you. You did that, thank you.
One, two, three. One more. One, two, three.
Looks like somebody tortured me.
I just wanted to point out one thing. We schedule library card sign-up month during September to coincide with the start of the school year. And we do a lot of things with the schools, a lot of collaboration with them to enhance what they do, and they enhance what we do. But one of the things that we offer now is students in Lexington City Schools, Thomasville City Schools, and Davidson County Schools, through their lunch number, can access library resources. So it helps everybody that way. So thank you for the recognition. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for what you do. Next item is a proclamation for Constitution Week. And, Zach, you wanna
Yes, sir.
lead that?
Miss Tony London is here with Leonard's Creek chapter of the Daughters of the Revolutionary. If you mind standing, and you and your group, if you want to stand at the podium. Mr. Chairman, it's a great honor to read this proclamation, but before I do, I was doing a little bit of research. I think many of us here in the room, and I know the folks on this board, really appreciate our Constitution. Just a few facts. It is the oldest yet shortest Constitution in the world. It was written in 1787. It was ratified in 1788. It was actually written in Independence Hall, where our Declaration of Independence was written and signed. It was written in secret and had guards guarding the door to keep anybody from going in. The first 10 amendments, which came in 1789, are our Bill of Rights. Most people don't realize that. And since our Constitution was implemented, 11,000 amendments have been before Congress, 33 of which passed Congress went to the states, and only 27 of which passed the required states. So we have a deep history with our Constitution. The entire world looks at us and how we have our Constitution written and the rights that we have. So with that said, Mr. Chairman, I'll read the proclamation.
Okay.
Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America, the guardian of our liberties, embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law. And whereas on September 17th, 2019, marks 232nd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition for this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas it is the privilege and duty of the American people to commemorate the 232nd anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, the Davidson County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week, and urge all citizens of Davidson County to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. This 10th day of September 2019. With that, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve this proclamation.
Do I have a second to approve this motion for Constitution Week?
Second.
Cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 6-0.
Suck it in, Fred, suck it.
I only hold it so long.
If my glasses straight, I got one ear lower than the other.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you for this proclamation. The Constitution is a living document that assures each citizen the freedoms that Americans cherish and appreciate. As members of the Daughters of the American Revolution, it is our responsibility to keep our ancestors' legacy alive by promoting the ideals they fought so valiantly for to give their descendants. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we have something else also.
The National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, the Leonard's Creek Chapter, and the 50th commemoration of the Vietnam War, and on the behalf of the Secretary of Defense and a grateful nation, we would like to thank you for your valor, service, and sacrifice, Commissioner Fred McClure.
Oh, thank you very much.
Surprise, surprise.
Thank you very much.
You're gonna have to get your picture made down there.
Well, then
Yeah, you
come
need
back.
to
Get in, get your picture made
Can I
again.
borrow your coat? That come a little surprise.
I didn't know you served in the Confederate War, Fred. That's,
That was it early in my life. Thank you very much.
1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
No.
Fred, you can have 30 seconds to respond if you want to.
I already did. I said thank you.
Okay.
sorry about that, Fred. I couldn't resist. That was an opportunity.
And I wanna say congratulations to you too. That's, I watched you each time that they have the memorial service, is it?
Over to, Methodist.
At that
West-
church. And they'll have the music, and if they play the Marine hymn, the Marines go down, they play the Army caisson, that goes down. Fred can go down with about 3 of them. He's been in 3 different services.
Yeah.
And, it amazes me each time I go down there. I go down there just to see that. And, so you make us all proud.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Don, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Fred just couldn't figure out which branch he liked better.
Do what?
You couldn't figure out which branch you liked better.
No, it's just,
I'm just jerking your chain, Fred.
Okay.
I could tell you why I went.
The meals were better than the other, wasn't it, Fred?
That'd take more than the 3 seconds, huh?
I told somebody the other day during the Civil War, my side fought for the West. Okay. Next item is resolution in support of Sam's Law, and Fred, you got the podium again.
This Sam's Law is, there's 2 bills, one's in the House bill and one's in the Senate. The whole purpose of this bill has to do with epilepsy and seizures.
a situation where if you don't have the training for the seizures whenever they happen, it's a life, determining situation. If you have the training, you can step in and do the job. If you don't have the training, you just have to sit and watch somebody suffer. But anyway, the resolution seeking legislative support for Sam's Law, House Bill 955, Senate Bill 354. Whereas Senate Bill 354 was filed on March 25th, 2019, House Bill 955 was filed on April 25th, 2019. And whereas both bills are entitled An Act Relating to Seizure Disorders in Schools, also being known as Seizure Safe Schools Act of 2019, or Sam's Law. And whereas both bills set out that a seizure action plan be established for students who are diagnosed with a seizure disorder that acknowledges the health care needs of the student, prepares both parties to meet those needs, and applies over the course of a school year. And whereas both bills also set out that each school shall ensure that at least one employee in the school is trained to administer or assist with the self-administration of any seizure medication provided to the school pursuant to the seizure action plan, and that the governing body of each public school unit shall adopt minimum training requirements for these employees and for any volunteer that may supervise students with seizure disorders if the volunteer elects to receive the training, with such training requirements being consistent with the training guidelines established by the Epilepsy Foundation of America or its successors. Whereas both bills also set out that the governing body of each public school unit shall adopt a program which would be a policy outlining the requirements of a seizure education program for all school personnel having direct contact with students in grades kindergarten through 12, with the program being administered on an annual basis in each school and meeting certain requirements. And whereas both bills also set out that the governing body of each public school unit shall adopt a policy requiring all principals, guidance counselors, and teachers to complete at least 1 hour of self-study review of seizure disorder materials each school year, with the governing body of each public school unit being responsible for the selection of materials for study in accordance with current practices and standards. Whereas both bills were intended to be in effect for the 2019-20 school year, whereas the Senate and the House have failed to concur on certain provisions contained in the pending legislation, and whereas there is a great need across the state for passage of Sam's Law to protect the children in our school units who suffer from seizure disorders and to ensure their safety while in school environment. Now therefore be it resolved that the Davidson County Board of Commissioners hereby requests that the Senate and House of Representatives of the North Carolina General Assembly work together to come up with a compromise and enact this legislation known as an Act Relating to Seizure Disorders in Schools, also being known as Seizure Safe Schools Act of 2019, or Sam's Law. Be it further resolved that this resolution be forwarded to the state legislative delegation with a request for action this 10th day of September 2019. We have a gentleman in the audience tonight. Come on up, sir. And I'll present a copy of the resolution to him. He has really worked hard to make people more aware of what epilepsy is and seizure disorders. And my daughter-in-law has seizures and has experienced these things, and they go out like a light. And if nobody's around to take care of them and knows what to do, it can be out like a light forever. I sure do appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you so much. You will take a picture?
Yes, sir, and I will also get Mr. Kincaid an original resolution. I didn't know you needed one this evening, so I didn't have it.
That's all right. We give him another one.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'll give him a good one.
Can we take the vote with Fred down here? He can vote from the floor.
Yeah, I can vote from the floor.
Okay, motion to approve.
Second.
All right, got a motion second to approve.
They won an award and got excited.
Oh, you stand down on this side, that bench.
And that motion carries 6-0 as well. Picture two?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Mr. Kincaid, I will get that to you.
Thank you very much. Mhm.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to, ask the clerk to also send out our 4 county systems, including Davidson Charter Academy, and ask that they go ahead and look at implementing that even without a state law.
So to send it to all 3 school systems and the Charter Academy.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you send it to them, Commissioner Cross, or to the respective school boards?
Well, that's what I meant, the school boards.
The school board.
It
Yes.
just said schools, it didn't specify.
Yeah, I didn't mean like the principals or anything, just the,
Okay.
On behalf of the epilepsy of Davidson County, I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart, 'cause this means a lot to me. I never dreamed there would be a day that I'm doing what I'm doing. And I never dreamed that I'd get to be good friends with the folks of the Davidson County Board of Commissioners. But this law is really something that's needed. This is Sam Davis, and I brought brochures if you'd like to get to know her or read about her. 'Cause we got 115,000 people in North Carolina with epilepsy. And that's larger than our 8th largest city of Wilmington. And we got 15,500 children in public schools that have no protection today. And like the commissioner said, epilepsy kills. 'Cause more people die of epilepsy each year than breast cancer, but it's never talked about. And I brought my right hand with me, Miss Lily Taha, and she was one of the speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
As an epileptic, an active epileptic, if you look, you'll see the bruises all over me because I still have seizures every so often. I've had 3 today. So as an active epileptic, this law means a whole lot. If you're teaching your teachers, and I go to a sporting event to watch my son, who really loves to play sports, or I go into the school, at least I know somebody there, if you're teaching every last person, can help me. You don't know how often you go to Walmart or something and you go into and have a seizure and there's nobody there to help you. So, that being said, with my son, he's an epileptic. So far, he has not had any seizures, grand mal seizures, since he was an infant. Thank God for that. But with him playing sports, just like Samantha was doing, something that was normal, something that was not out of the way, she passed away on the field. That scares me every single time my son gets out there, and not knowing if this person knows what they're doing. Just like I'm here tonight, my son was at practice. So that scares me. I am so thankful and grateful in all of you and all your efforts for what you are doing. And it's a small step that you don't understand how much it takes a lot off of us as our parents that have kids who have epilepsy, that we can send them to school and we don't have to worry and grind our teeth and everything else. Sam's law was for Samantha. She was a great, outgoing, vivacious life. It was snuffed out because of epilepsy. They didn't have a defibrillator, but they have one now. It's in honor of her name. It's too late. Maybe it'll help the next one. But that is one child that could have really made a difference in the world. And I don't want to see no more children end up on a field or in a classroom, dead. This is why this is so important. It is also important because most people assume that people who have epilepsy, when we're in the classroom, there are staring seizures. These seizures are where you look just straight ahead. So you would assume that we're not paying attention. In all acts, we're having seizures. The school system has our kids more than we do a day. If they know the signs, they can tell the parents, I think your child is having seizures. My daughter's boyfriend started fainting, passing out. I thought it was the heart. He's going for an EEG come this next Monday. They think he has epilepsy. He is 17 years old, so it's not something that starts at toddlers. You can get it at any point in time in your life. But it needs to be educated. We had one Walt Disney character that just passed away. The joke going around the school is, I sleep like this, I sleep like this. And the child that passed away, they show him jerking around in a bed as if it's a joke.
Y'all are doing a great job.
Thank you. Most people who have this do die of sleep. It's when you have your seizure. And y'all are doing a good job. Honest to God, you're the first county.
You want the handouts?
You are the first county that has ever given any recognition to epilepsy.
I've got one right here.
Nobody else has given it.
Thank you.
So, in all honesty, thank y'all, every last one of you. And let's keep fighting so we can make sure it does pass. So not only just Davidson County, but every county in North Carolina can get the help they need. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you so much.
I can't understand.
Okay, so we got a couple handouts here. All right, the next item on the agenda is the replacing the Register of Deeds integrated land record system. Casey, you want?
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna ask Dwayne and the Register of Deeds. I may also need Joel Hartley. I'm not sure if he's back behind, he can hear me or not. I'll do this at 30,000 foot, and then I'm gonna let these gentlemen walk you through any detailed questions. But the Register of Deeds office uses this land record system to do all the property transactions over there in their office. Years ago, and I think it's probably been 10 now or more.
2007.
Okay, so it's been 12. We've had a land record system put in. That company's been sold several times. We've gone through several reiterations of that software. We're at a point now where we're at a piece of software we're trying to upgrade that just simply won't work. Efforts to work with the company have not kind of fixed those issues. They're on servers that are old, which, as you know, can cause some security issues. So I think what staff has done with support services and also with IT is worked with the Register of Deeds to go through kind of a procurement process to get you a new system with our company here, Business Information Systems. One quick note about how these things get funded. The Register of Deeds office has a portion of their revenues every year can go toward automation. And so we have a segment of the county fund balance is earmarked for that. That's how this thing gets paid for, basically. It can only be spent on Register of Deeds automation needs. So tonight's item is to look at replacing this land record system. Dwayne, go ahead. I'm going to turn it over to you with any kind of detailed questions anybody may have.
I just got a couple of comments. For the record, this is a piggybacking opportunity from BIS. And I had called, talked with those folks. They had pointed me in the direction of the Kenton County, Kentucky, and her name is Gabrielle Summy, and she's a clerk of court up there. And she had put out an RFP. She went through a procurement process very much like our own. BIS did indeed win the award from those folks. And as I was going through that and listening to what she was saying, I asked Ms. Summy if she would do it again, if she would pick BIS to be their computer system again, and she said that they would without hesitation. So that made me feel really good, because sometimes you do that and go through that and you have buyer's remorse. She did not. Anyway, enough about me. Mr. Horn, do you have something you'd like to add to that?
My staff and I invited several vendors to come. They've been after me since I took office, but that's okay. But several vendors came. They all showed everything that they offered. And out of all of them, only 2 of them were actually PREA certified, which is Property Records Industry Association, which if you're familiar with law enforcement, then it's the CALEA standard in law enforcement. And this isn't an easy standard to obtain and to keep. BIS does have that standard. But one thing that is great about BIS is Forsyth and Guilford counties, both our neighboring counties, have been with them for several years and are very, very happy with their service. Our IT was greatly impressed with them and the platform they use. Everything should be good to work with. But most of all, they offer several things at BIS that other vendors could not offer, one of which is a county-controlled e-recording portal. We take in e-files, e-records on properties, and there's other companies that handle that at a charge. So the local attorneys, if they sign up and we go with BIS, they can sign up and this will be no cost to the local attorneys to file the paperwork. So we're actually saving folks money as far as that. They also carry a property fraud alert that will be on our website. People can sign up for it, and if someone was to try to file anything against their property without their knowledge, they would receive an email immediately upon that being done.
That's cool.
One of the great things from a supervisor standpoint is they have, and they're the only ones that have this, is a smartphone application. From my phone, I will be able to tell you real time if a clerk is entering a land record document and whether or not they have even scanned the document. It's amazing at the technology they have. Wonderful disaster recovery service. They keep everything backed up. It's basically backed up every 15 minutes, whereas currently we're only backing up of an evening once a day. So in case of a disaster, we could go with that. One of the great things that they offer is an integrated credit card system. Now, you can go with a third company, but there's no need in that. Be more charge, but we can't accept credit and debit cards, and this company has it one-stop shop. It literally, BIS, once someone signs on with them, you can even buy your paper from them. It is a great company. I was very impressed with everything that they brought to the table. They have GIS integration. If you use GIS, we can integrate it. It's something that could be worked out later on through land records. But one of the main things they have that I really want to move forward with later on, once everything settles, is a veteran identification program. Most of the other counties in the state, or especially your larger counties, are going with this veterans program, and what it is when they come, it encourages veterans to come and file their DD-214s, which the military, being a former Marine, they didn't tell me to go to the Register of Deeds to file my DD-214, so folks don't know that. Yes, it's on file. That's the most protected document there is. But nonetheless, that's something that they offer that I want to move to later on. But all that being said, not one other vendor came close to the services and the satisfaction that BIS did. And that's coming from a business perspective, an IT perspective, and a user perspective. So my staff and I really would like to move forward with BIS, and I think that it will be with Davidson County for many years to come.
Okay, is there any questions for our Register of Deeds?
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve that. We have the IT recommendation as well as our...
Okay, so got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
If you cast your vote.
I want us to have BIS, just not IBS.
Oh, come on.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Now,
Thank you, sir. Thanks, good job.
item E.
Thank you, gentlemen.
He talked about it along the rest of them. Bids for the Cecil School roof replacement.
Yes, sir. We've done some work at trying to replace the the roof at Cecil School. This is a metal roof. It's roughly 20,110 square feet. Based on the bids that we got back, it looks like $25.56 per square foot. This item surfaced several times. We were having trouble with that roof and some leaking that was going on, and we believe that this will correct that. I do have Dan Norman here as our architect who designed the project and bid the project, and so with that, if also have Alan Harris here, he can give you some insight on what's actually going on down there as well. So with that, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you guys may have.
I'd like to talk to Dan about the bids a little bit, please. Seen there was a pretty good discrepancy between, or a pretty good distance between the low and second bid, so are you comfortable with the contractor on this project?
I'm comfortable with the contractor. It's Southern Metal Systems Incorporated. Mr. Baker was one of the original ones that we contacted, and he actually came to the school twice. First was the initial time, and then he's actually helped us, kind of pull together some ideas right up front. So, and we did invite several others. I mean, we had 4 different companies and invited 5 to the preliminary. They all showed up, 4 of them did, and went back over the project again. Still feel pretty comfortable with Mr. Baker and his number. Only thing I can say with the others is they just didn't sharpen their pencils. I mean, it's just a matter of the economy right now.
I'm good with that. I just wanted to make sure you felt comfortable with the contractor.
I did receive 3 different letters from individual engineers, REI engineers, William D. Billinger, PE, and also MRC, Metal Roof Consulting Engineers, that all recommended him. I did try to follow through with some calls and got voicemail or different answers and different things like that, but I haven't physically got a chance to talk with anybody outside of that.
That's like you got some pretty good recommendations there, so.
Yeah, I do.
REI wants them, that's pretty good.
Yep.
I'd say that's.
Total project's what, 581? 581, 461.
Oh, the actual bid number?
Yeah.
The bid number is, 541,000.
Yeah.
41, yeah.
Or excuse me, 514, sorry.
I thought it was
514,000, yes.
That was the base bid. There's the engineering, and then there's the moving of the air conditioning unit. So when it all totals, that's at 581, I think. I mean, we've got a project already set up, so we're gonna have to amend it by a little bit of money we pull from capital reserve. That should end this, I think, to get this done.
Okay, any other questions? Do I have a motion that we approve this bid?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. If you'll cast your vote.
Do you feel like this is a good purpose for this building, do you not?
Oh, to re-roof?
Right.
Definitely. Sure, we lose them.
Okay. I mean, I think that's the best thing to do to this building, but I wanted to get your second opinion there, but.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend it if you're wanting to keep it at all. I mean, this is the only thing that's gonna save it.
Yeah.
All of the votes are in, that motion carries 6-0.
Okay, so that ends our deliberations. We're getting ready now for the public hearings. I see Guy Foreman coming to the front.
Mr. Chairman, on this first one, this is a piece of property that I'm rezoning, so I'd like to recuse myself from voting on this, but if there's any questions for me during this proceeding, I'll step down to the podium and answer any questions for anybody.
approve you now, or do we have to? So we don't have to do it.
Mr. Chairman, I think the board may want to entertain a motion and, to, allow, Mr. Yates to be excused on this.
Okay, okay. So we got a motion?
Yes.
And a second.
Will you just verbally, sir?
Verbally, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you excused.
Thank you.
Vote for you too, Fred.
Yeah.
We just voted him out.
Did you, everything come out all right, Fred?
It was me that.
I just wanted to hug them girls.
When he asked me about the number.
That was me, I'm sorry.
I stood, Richie's trying to figure the number out, wasn't he? I got about.
He asked him.
I didn't know it was going to quite work its way all the way down to Karen and back.
But I know about it.
Okay. All right, Guy, you ready?
We're ready.
Our first, rezoning request is by Jeffrey Todd Yates in Cotton Grove Township. Public hearing's open.
Okay.
Mr. Yates here has been excused, so,
I'll just step down front for the time
all
being.
Okay.
So,
All right, you have an application or a request by Jeffrey Todd Yates to rezone property located in Cotton Grove Township, tax map 3A, lot 191B, containing approximately 17.43 acres, more or less. Property is located on the south side of Cedar Lane Drive, approximately 3/10 of a mile west of the Hedrick Avenue intersection. Rezoning is requested to change from RA1 Rural Agricultural District to that of LI Limited Industrial District. Planning Board did look at this at their August the 20th meeting. Their recommendation was unanimous, 5-0, to recommend approval of the request as it was presented. The area in blue that you see is actually in this area here, all across, this is Interstate 85, but all of that is City of Lexington jurisdiction. And down here on Cedar Lane, all of that is Zone M1, which is the city's equivalent to the county's limited industrial district. Cedar Lane is a state maintained road, and it goes out to Highway 8 that everyone's familiar with this area. The subject property is highlighted in yellow here. It's at the very end of Cedar Lane, and then he has a driveway that comes down into the property here. If you'd like to hear from the applicant at this time, and then we'll have a staff recommendation.
okay. Mr. Yates?
It's weird seeing you.
Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, good to see you. This is 17.23 acres. I'm wanting to zone light industrial. At this time, I will probably put some metal steel frame buildings on it for lease. I do some commercial property rentals. I thought I had this property sold about 6 or 8 months ago to a server farm. They wanted to put servers on it, and actually I filed a application with the zoning department for rezoning then to light industrial, but we couldn't get enough power to the site to run all the servers. So this is kind of a backup plan. I've had this property for a long time. I want to start doing something with it besides just paying taxes on it. So if you got any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Yates? Okay, we might have some later.
Mr. Yates, you also said that there's some public sewer manhole cover somewhere.
Yes, sir. There's public sewer right up close to the white line. Can I borrow your?
Sure. Show him which.
There you go.
There you go.
There's sewer right there, city sewer right there on the corner, so it's accessible to city utilities.
Sure. Thank you.
And I have 2 perk permits also in case we decide to go with the septic tank avenue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yates.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would wish to speak for or against this rezoning request? If you come to the front, state your name.
I didn't hear what you said. What did you say?
I said, come to the front and state your name if you want to speak.
I am Barney W. Hill. The applicant did his due diligence by leaving the parcel on the market 10 years with its current zoning before he sought the rezoning. This board likes contiguity, and here is a request that includes not only the standard contiguity within the county jurisdiction, but also contiguity with the comparable zoning category across the line in the city jurisdiction. I can't remember another example of this. Policy 4.7 is the policy that is most directly on point, but I don't see why policy 4.1 shouldn't be included as well. The only thing that ought to be controversial about this request is the correct spelling of the part of the applicant's name he never uses. Give Jeffrey a break.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that'd like to come up and speak in favor or against this rezoning request? Okay, seeing no other, I'm gonna close the.
Staff would, at this time, would like to recommend approval of the request based on the fact that it is contiguous to existing LI Limited Industrial as well as the city's M1, which is manufacturing. You also have infrastructure there that's available to the property if it's needed with city utilities. And you have access to the main corridor, which is Highway 8 by way of Cedar Lane Drive. And Policy 4.7 of the Land Development Plan does lend support to the proposed rezoning of the LI district. So at this time, we would recommend approval, and I believe we've kind of incorporated that into your consistency statement for the board.
Okay, so the public hearing's closed now, so it's back to the board. Any questions or any comments from the board?
No, Mr. Chairman, I know the area very well, and I think that that's very suitable. There's one house back there, but the rest of that area is suitable for exactly what Mr. Yates wants to do with it, so.
So is that your motion?
So a motion from me, Mr. Chairman.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
So we've got a motion second to approve this rezoning request. If you'll cast your vote. God, it might be close. It might be close.
Yeah.
All of those are in. And that motion carries 5-0.
You couldn't get two to vote for you.
Thank you all, and I want to tell you, I appreciate what you do, okay?
Okay. Item B is the rezoning request by Saving Grace K-9s, Bridget Parsons in Tyro Township containing a little over 13 acres from RA2 to CUOI.
Yes, sir. Okay. You do have an application to consider now by Saving Grace K-9s with Bridget Parsons, who is the director, to rezone 13.27 acres more or less in Tyro Township, tax map 25, lots 110, 111, and 112. The property is located on the north side of Sink Farm Road, approximately 100 feet northwest of the Tom Caudle Road and Sink Farm Road intersection. The address is 760 Sink Farm Road. The rezoning is requested to change from that of RA2 Rural Agricultural District to that of CUOI Conditional Use Office and Institutional District. And what they would like to do is have this as a training facility for their service dogs to be able to meet their new clients and be able to train with those service dogs at this location. It's the way I understand it.
Okay.
The applicants are here tonight if you'd like to hear from them. Ms. Parsons is the director.
Okay, the public hearing is now open.
Madam Clerk, are you gonna swear in the witness?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I started saying-
I'm sorry, I should have recognized that too. Good call.
So this is quasi, okay,
Mr. Chairman, could you give me your little card that you have up there?
if I can get it.
Get her a Bible,
I
please.
want to make sure that I do it right.
Yeah.
Is there any other witnesses or anybody want to speak?
Oh, Debbie? Debbie?
Raise your right, thank you.
Debbie.
Yes,
Is anyone else,
does anyone else in the room want to speak?
anyone else gonna speak in this,
Mr. Hill, I'll affirm you separately if that's okay.
Does the dog have to raise its right hand?
Trained
She's not trained to do that yet.
Put your left hand on the Bible and raise your right. Do you swear that the testimony you shall give to the board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
We need somebody to verify Guy Corman's identity, his name tag.
Mr. Hill, you affirm that the testimony you are about to give, if any, will be the truth and nothing but the truth, but there is only one who can know the whole truth.
yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Parsons?
All right, my name is Bridget Parsons. I'm the director of Saving Grace Canines. I've met with you guys before, and thank you very much for hearing this. What we found in the past 5 years, that it's not just the service dogs that are helping our veterans. What they need is the camaraderie of their brothers and their sisters who have also felt the same combat and everything like that, and the PTSD, the effects of all that. So what our plan is to have our training center now located there. You can see there's the building, we're gonna have a parking area, we're gonna have a dog run where they can go and, I don't know how to use it. Well, I know point, but how do you turn it on? Gotcha. Anyway. Blue button, awesome. Oh, I have to press on it. See, this is why I do a director and not this. Right here, there will be a dog run, with agility equipment so the dogs can go out there and play. That's our little septic area. What I hope to have is a garden. Our guys are very competitive. So what my plan is to have a garden, a raised garden with Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and see who grows the best vegetables. We'll see. There is a creek that runs through it right here. My plan eventually, probably within the next couple of years, is to have a pond built with a gazebo so they can have lunch with their families and they can fish and all that, and then we'll have like little walking trails. All of this wooded area will stay wooded except for having to clear it for the pond. That's about it.
Okay, are there any questions from the board for Ms. Parsons while she's here?
Looks nice to me.
Okay, we don't have any questions right now, so we'll find out in a minute.
Thank you. I had to write this down so I didn't just get up here and ramble, but my name is Zachary Hubbard. This is Liberty. I served 9 years in the United States Army and for the North Carolina National Guard, and I have PTSD. I'm also a husband of 18 and a half years. I have a 4.5-year-old little boy. I've survived multiple IED attacks and got used to being shot at, and PTSD almost killed me in 2010. I was out of the Army. I spent thousands of dollars of my personal money seeking counseling and treatment. I do everything the VA recommends. I take medicine the VA recommends. But something was missing, and that was being part of a team again. Bridget, Saving Grace, Liberty have given me that back. She relies on me just as much as I rely on her. She's still going through training, so we're still working on some things, but if y'all heard her in the back earlier, that's because I didn't bring treats in. She does allow me to go places I couldn't go before. If I went shopping at Bass Pro Shop in Charlotte, I'd drive from Winston-Salem, spend 5 minutes, get in, get out. and drive back an hour home. I don't have to do that anymore. I'm not scared. 22 does not sound like a big number. 22 veterans today killed themselves. That's half of what's in here is gone. No doubt in my mind what Bridget's done is saved lives. And we need to continue that work. This project will allow veterans a place to be a team again, to be in a safe place. This has been amazing for me. It's been amazing for my family. My son has his own leash that clips right here. So when we go out training, he can go with her. If not, she follows him everywhere he goes. So again, I think a vote against this project is not just a vote against saving grace. It's against people that served, are still serving, and have served, and come home and things aren't just right. So, thank you.
Thank you. I tell you, he might be in training, but he's already made sergeant, it looks like.
It's the truth.
Okay. Is anyone else who would like to come forward, speak in favor or against this, request?
I am pleased that staff is again making applicants aware of the availability of conditional use. I hope this applicant has not gone overboard in consenting to restrictions. There are no policies cited in the recommendations. The applicant proposed policy 1.15 and policy 5.9. I think I understand why 1.115 was rejected, but policy 5.9 seems valid. The applicant has demonstrated 5 years of success in running the unusual kind of operation that is the subject of the request. I say, let this one go to the dogs.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak? All right, Ms. Parsons, do you want to rebut anything that's been said, or?
No, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna close the public hearing to the audience and turn it back to Mr. Corman here.
Well, I should point out to you that policy 5.9 does say that effective buffering and landscaping shall be provided by any new commercial or office development adjoining any existing or planned residential uses. This is a rural area, and I have been out there, and this, I think the way that their site plan, it speaks for itself. I think it's laid out in a way that would help preserve or make the proposed use as a training facility. It would be harmonious with the existing rural character of the area out there and the open farmland that you see there. So at this time, we would recommend approval of the request as we feel like it would be reasonable and consistent with the comprehensive plan for the area. As you know, O&I, Office and Institutional, is used as a transitional zone, but it does allow for single-family residents to be within that O&I district or cohabitate with any institutional or commercial, certain commercial uses. So
The zoning board was 5-0.
yes, it was
in favor of it.
5-0. Yes, sir.
Okay, are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Beg your pardon?
clarification. I wasn't advocating imposing that on them. They brought it up in Exhibit B as they had already accomplished that, and I wanted to get credit for it.
Wish I could got that in, but I done declared the public hearing closed. Are there any questions from the board?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, I don't have any.
All right, do I have a motion and a second to approve or disapprove this rezoning request?
So moved, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
All right, now, we
Have
have
to
the
approve it.
conditional use part of it.
Second.
Questions, go ahead here, Derek, all of the votes are in.
All right, now,
That motion carries 6-0.
okay, now, guys, you want
Okay, we do have, some conditions, as part of this, and I would, confirm that with the conditions, the required findings of this, that the development of the property in accordance with the proposed conditions will not materially endanger the public health or safety, that the development of the property in accordance with the proposed conditions will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the development is a public necessity. And the third one is that the location and character of the development in accordance with the proposed conditions will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located in general conformity with the plan of development of the county and its environs. But the conditions that they're offering, I think, help promote those, three findings of fact. And, for the record, I'll read those, that the hours of operation are Tuesday to Saturday from 9 to 4 with an occasional evening class. Number 2, that the existing screening of the rear of the property, that is approximately 6.77 acres of woods, will remain with approximately 1 to 3 acres cleared for the pond that you saw on the site plan. 3, that the screening on the northwest side of the property will include the privacy fence, and there's a residence, if you want to show that, there is a closest residence, yes, there, and that's why they were offering the privacy fence. The number of full-time employees are 2, and part-time employees are 3. They're not expecting any substantial increase of those employees for the time being. They will not kennel animals on the property. In other words, the animals will not be kept there overnight. They'll just be brought to the property and work with the clients, and then they'll go home. The structures that will be built will blend in with the existing surroundings, and that lighting will be basic residential lights that will be focused on the structures on the property. Those are the 7 conditions.
Mr. Chairman, Chuck, can we approve this right here with the dismissal of, for example, I'm for this, all but 3. But 4. I don't think we're gonna put restrictions on them, on how many people they wanna hire. Whatever they need to be able to hire.
The conditions that are before the board at this time are just a proposal for you.
Mm-hmm.
You can amend any of those as you see fit.
Because it's sort of contradictory. We do not expect the number of employees, but if you limit them, whether you expect it or not, you're limited to it. I don't agree. Am I wrong on that, guys?
You drew up those conditions, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm the one that wrote that because I didn't want it to seem like it was going to be a very large commercial conglomerate, because it's not. It will never be that. We want to stay small. That's the reason for this, so everybody can feel comfortable, because it does need to be really big. We want to keep it quiet.
Mr. Fry, if I make a motion, to approve the conditional use, eliminate number 4, is that appropriate?
If you can find 3 other board members to say it is, yes, sir.
Is the motion appropriate?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, I'll make such a motion.
So I guess
I'll second it.
we got a motion and a second that we
We do this verbally.
eliminate number 4.
And approve the rest.
Is that number 4?
Yes.
I can't even see it.
Approve.
Okay, and approve the rest. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got a motion and a second to approve the
Thank you.
It's approved.
I was trying not to do the happy dance, but I'm doing the happy dance. Thank you guys very much. I do
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Okay. Number C, rezoning request by Allison Brinkley and Terry Sharp of Lexington Township.
Sure.
Public hearing's open on this one. Guy, will you?
Okay. You have a request by Allison Brinkley and Terry L. Sharp of Stillwell Investments Incorporated to rezone 0.8 of an acre more or less in Lexington Township, tax map 311C, lot 23. The property is located on the southwest corner of Old US Highway 52 and North Leonard Road intersection. The address is 5633 Old US Highway 52. Rezoning is requested to change from RA3 Rural Agricultural District and O&I Office and Institutional District to that of HC Highway Commercial District. This is up in the unincorporated community of Welcome. This is Old Highway 52, and this is the subject property right in here. We have an O&I district that's been established for a good while now. And this, of course, is the North Davidson High School campus that's zoned O&I Office and Institutional. Well, I'm sorry, it's Welcome Elementary.
I was sitting here thinking, wait a minute.
Too far north. Yeah. Welcome. I'm sorry. And, see what else I need. We do have some highway commercial across the 52 there. This is all zoned highway commercial. Okay, if you'd like to hear from the applicants at this time.
Okay, Ms. Binkley or Mr. Sharp?
How y'all doing?
Fine, Harry.
I'm Terry Sharp. So what we've got here, we just want to repurpose the property, leave the house in the condition it's in, fix it up, not really change anything, but we would like to, we don't have any plans now. There's an office space in there, but we'd like to go to, maybe a nail salon or barbershop, something of that nature. Not really planning a lot of change for the property, just want to, kind of give some different options as far as purposes.
So it's rental property.
Rental property, yes, sir.
All right, is there any questions for Mr. Sharp? Don't have any questions right now. We'll get with you in a minute. All right, the public hearing is open. Anyone from the audience would like to come forward and speak for or against this request?
This is classic changed or changing conditions with virtual contiguity and 3 supporting policies thrown in. Also, the applicants, without putting a number on it, proposed policy 1.5 and policy 1.8. And I believe they've accomplished that. I'm in favor of it.
Okay, is anyone else in the audience like to come forward and speak for or against? All right, close the public hearing to the audience and bring it back to Mr. Corman.
Sure. This entire area is considered part of the commercial service district for the unincorporated community of Welcome. It is also considered part of the Highway 52, Old Highway 52 corridor of economic opportunity. And we have seen some changing conditions up there with a lot of the houses and so forth being converted to other uses. So at this time, we feel like the rezoning request is reasonable and consistent with the comprehensive plan for the area. And at this time, we would recommend approval of the request.
Is there any further discussion from the board?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the request.
Public hearing is closed. We've got a motion to approve this request. Do I have a second?
Second.
Cast your vote.
And of course, that goes with whatever else you need.
Yeah.
That's what the clerk said.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 6-0.
You got it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Item D, rezoning request by Pfc Holdings Incorporated in Lexington Township. This public hearing's open now. Guy, you can introduce the applicant.
Sure. This is a request by Pfc Holdings Incorporated to rezone 37 acres, more or less, located in Lexington Township, tax map 321, lot 13B. The property is located on the west side of Leonard Road, approximately 4/10 of a mile northwest of the Laney Creek Drive intersection. The address of the property is 2193 Leonard Road. Rezoning is requested to change from that of RA3 Rural Agricultural District to that of MXR Mixed Use Residential District. Recommendation of the Planning Board on the 20th of August was 4-1 to recommend approval of the request. The applicants, or excuse me, the property owners of record are Constance and Joseph Walkowitz, and I believe they're absentee property owners, but they have signed the application that are in favor of the request. Mr. Barry Siegel is the managing partner of the Pfc Holdings, and he is here tonight to discuss the proposed rezoning, and what they're proposing to do is to develop the property for single-family residential home sites. Under the proposed, according to the conceptual plan, I believe it's 85 or 86 lots, if I remember correctly. And they are eligible to receive sewer from the city of Lexington, provided that the commissioners would approve the is it 10,000? You know how many gallons?
They don't have to do that for the city of Lexington.
Okay. You just have to approve the allocation. Okay. So the applicant is here tonight. He wants to present his proposed plan, and in your packet of information, you should have a conceptual plan that was part of your that shows the lots design.
Mr. Siegel, come on.
Good evening. My name is Amanda Williams with Pfc Holdings, and I work with Barry. I'm going to give you just a little bit of flavor, and Barry wants to go through the rest of stuff. But we are a residential developer. We also own a home building company called Royal Homes of North Carolina. We are based out of High Point, Triad-based company. We are very familiar with the market and pay good attention to what's going on. Like I said, we own a lot of stuff here. And one of the things we've noticed that caught our attention about Davidson County is this is a very growing area. We see a lot of our residents in Winston-Salem living in Davidson County because the cost of living is greater in Davidson County, as well as the schools are phenomenal in Davidson County, which is what attracted us to this area. And one of the things that we find with subdivisions is that a lot of young families would love to live and have their own first single-family house. But it takes two incomes a lot of times, so 2 working parents. And they can't, live on 5 acres, 10 acres, 15 acres. They don't have time to manage all of that land. So they love to be able to have a single-family subdivision. We build a product that in today's market is starter home prices. We also build $350, but what we're proposing today is in the low 2s, which is the starter home price today, in which a family can come live in Davidson County. They can have great schools for their children. They can have great jobs, be close to the highways, and come home and not have to worry about 5 acres or 10 acres of yard. One of the concerns that did come up at the planning board from one of the neighbors was school buses. And we don't have any control, of course, what the school system decides. That's totally up to the school system. But we did plan for the development to have a loop. So if the school buses wanted to come within the development and stop to pick up the children within the neighborhood, which we hope they would do, they would have that ability instead of all of the children in the neighborhood having to go to Leonard Road. I'm happy to answer any questions about us, but I would really like to let Barry have a chance to go through our plan and why we're proposing what we're proposing. And I do want to make one other thing real quick. I know the zoning allows for, I guess, potential commercial, but we are strictly residential. What you see on the plan is exactly what we are proposing, single-family homes for sale.
Okay, Barry, come on up.
Good evening. My name is Barry Siegel, address 4425 Monument Trace Drive in High Point. The realtor, Don, is here this evening, and he can certainly speak on behalf of the owners, and I'll leave that to him. But basically, what we're requesting this evening is a rezoning change from RA3 to MXR. And as you know, in the RA3, of course, that would in fact permit single-family residential homes. And the real distinction between the two is that in the RA3, the lots would be a minimum of 90 feet frontage, whereas in the MXR, there's requirements for open space, and then the frontage could be reduced to 75 feet. That reduction in the frontage, of course, does save some cost in the development, but more importantly, in this particular development, it allows us to, in fact, present to you the plan that we are presenting here this evening, both with a loop road as well as a large number of cul-de-sacs. And we're able, in fact, to do that and basically try to work with the land best we can. And if you looked at the topographic maps, you'll see that there's a fair bit of topography on that site. If in fact we were looking to develop this strictly under the RA3, then chances are we would not have presented what we're showing here this evening, because the cul-de-sacs are really not very efficient. We have larger lots in the cul-de-sacs, and in order to try to get a reasonable yield, i.e. number of lots, we probably would have ended up more with a grid pattern, and we'd rather not do that. You can also see that there's a fair bit of open space, and there was some discussion at the planning board meeting as to would the residents have the ability to get to that open space. Granted, we're talking about some floodplain areas, and so we are currently right now in the engineering stage, and we're looking at that, and we do think that we can provide certainly continuity to that open space in areas that we're going to have utility connections for the sewer line or storms or stuff like that. So we, in fact, do plan to look at that and incorporate that open space. But we're not looking to incorporate active open space such as swimming pools or anything of that sort, really more for a place where people could go walk their dogs and things of that sort. There was also some discussion from one of the neighbors across the street that took exception to the development and the fact that they would see some houses. And during that discussion, we did say we certainly would look at the possibility of providing a landscape buffer. Frankly, as you can see on our development, there is some benefit, certainly to us to do that, so we are looking at that. And there was also some discussion by the neighbor to the east, Mr. Barria, that the concern about the lots backing up to his particular tract, which I believe is tract 13D. And if in fact you look at the topographic maps, you'll see that basically this site slopes from basically the eastern side to the creek. And so in order to develop it with water and sewer, which would be the intent, and the roads, they're going to meet NC DOT type requirements in terms of grades and so forth, we are going to have to grade the site. And so in essence, there would be basically, if you wish, a slope adjacent to the property to the east, such that we would not have the backyards immediately adjacent to Mr. Barriers without a topographic transition. Now, granted, the lots would, in fact, as you saw in the site plan, back up to his tract, but there would be a topographic difference, okay? Ours would certainly be lower than his particular property. So we would be, if approved then this evening, we are proposing to develop the site according to the site plan in front of you. We're providing 2 access points. As you may have noticed, we are not providing a stub to the adjoining property. And there's a great deal of discussion on that at the planning board with regard to certain restrictions that are in the deeds, and I'll be happy to address that, or the realtor or the staff would certainly be happy to address that. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. But I think the important thing is that under the current zoning, okay, you could probably have about 3.7, 3.8 units per acre under the current zoning. Under the MXR, we technically could have 4 units an acre. And the request in front of you, based upon the plan here, is for 86 lots, which is 2.32, okay, units per acre. So really the difference is we are asking for less units than what's currently permitted, or would be permitted if approved to MXR. We are asking for less units than what would be permitted in the RA3. We are asking for some flexibility in the design based upon the considerations of the topography and the open space, and ending up with a density of 2.32 units. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Questions from the board?
Yeah, what size lots are they supposed to be?
The lots can be, we would have lots that would be 75 feet and 135 feet minimum depth. So I think the requirement is a minimum of 10,000. Is that?
There is no minimum in the MXR.
Right, but it would be a minimum of 70, please.
In the RA3 district that they sit now with public sewer, you're required to have 15,000 square feet with 90 feet of frontage. If you rezone it to MXR, there is no limit or minimum lot size, but there is the 75 feet of minimum requirement. So that's why most of these lots are going to be between 10 to 12,000 square feet.
Okay. Secondly, is there a deed restriction that you're going to place on the parcels that will prevent them from long-term rental?
That is not our intent to have any long-term rental or rentals. I don't know, and I have to kind of ask the attorney. I think there are some restrictions, okay, legal restrictions that you can impose. The fact that, and please help me, but I've heard this, we could not impose a restriction in the subdivision that says you can't rent it. That was my understanding. But that's certainly not our intent. They will be for sale. And
well, I know when you sell them, but then within about 5 to 10 years after you sell them at that price point, they will become rental property. And what happens when that happens in that price point, I'm a realtor, I see it all the time, is then the value of everyone else's property goes down to where they can't sell their property and get out clean.
and please let me clarify, the price point will probably be $225 to $300 and some thousand dollars.
Right, but the 225 ones, the 250 will become rental property in about 10 years.
And if in fact the board feels that is a stipulation that you would like to address, okay, in the deed restrictions, we certainly have no problem with that. If in fact it's a legal restriction, that is permissible.
It will be an HOA, correct?
Yes. There'll be
Then the HOA can enforce that it can only be rented to family or 6 months intervals, and that's it.
And I apologize, I don't know. Okay, what the
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Siegel?
The, roads that are in the subdivision will be at state DOT requirements.
Yes, we will, the roads, of course, will be designed to the state requirements, built to the state requirements, and then, if approved through that process, and we've done that many times, we will petition the state to take them over, yes.
There is a new bill that was adopted by the, General Assembly, and it's law now that the, developers have to submit, a statement to the DOT with all the paving specifications that it meets DOT standards.
And then they will accept it.
Yes, and they also have to submit a bond to the DOT. DOT's not thrilled with that, but they are currently assessing it, and we actually have some representatives from DOT that'll be coming to the planning board on the 17th of September to talk about some of that new law as well. And so they're currently getting their representative on this in the state attorney general's office to help them interpret that new.
So the roads that are in the subdivision, it will not be complete until the state has assumed them?
That's correct. In other words, there'll be a bond in place with the district engineer's office to make sure that.
We just had too many of them in the past.
Yes, sir. And it's been a problem all over the state.
Mr. Siegel, there might be more questions in a minute, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about, the roadway leading into the subdivision?
Leonard Road is a state-maintained road.
It's a horrible road, probably one of the worst in the county.
Tell me about that road. That was my question. What's that road? What's that road like?
DOT will have the ability to improve the road. They will study it as over time as the property develops, and they could require the developer to build turning lanes if it became necessary.
What about this open space on the side? I mean,
Yes.
that's the 22% of it, those 8.1 acres, but
Yes.
it's not gonna be usable for anything, it's not gonna be recreational, it's not gonna be.
It could be used for walking trails, that kind of thing. I don't think it was the developer's intent
Not your intent.
to have anything, as he said, like tennis courts or swimming pools or active recreation. But he is willing to have it available for walking trails and maybe frisbee golf or something like that.
Okay, the public hearing is open to the public here now, so anybody in the audience that wants to come up and speak, come up forward.
My name is Richard Berry. I live at 2137 Leonard Road, which is the house to the right of the property. I have about 1,200 feet adjoining that lot. And we talked at the planning and zoning and talked with Barry. He did answer a few questions because I have a water problem coming off that lot. It backs up over my septic system about 100 feet from the property line. And he said he's going to put a elevation change in there, which would take care of that, and I do appreciate that. None of us like the high-density subdivision because it doesn't really fit with the neighborhood, because most of the people own acreage tracts. It's family land, things like that. But, in the road, you mentioned Leonard Road, they just paved from Will Lanier up to the school. They never do anything to our section of Leonard Road. We're the stepchild for the DOT, I guess. And, it's a tar and gravel road. It's only 18 foot wide, paved. And there are wrecks all the time. That property that it's in question, there's cars that end up in the ditch, in the creek, tear down the fence, single car accidents. From the wooded area about where his entrance is going to be on the other end, right in there, down to the bottom of the hill, it's a 60-foot drop. The road goes down 60 feet. I don't know what degree, but it's pretty steep. You don't see over the hill when you get there. And coming the other direction, you can't see around the curve because of the way it is, and Roy will speak in a minute. His driveway's there, and it's hard to get in and out as it is. Now, it's talking about the school buses going in there. The school buses won't go in there until that development is completed. And I don't know if there's any new rules and regulations, but the old one, I think 75% of the houses had to be sold before the state will take it over.
They do have a formula, and, you know, there will have to be a certain number of homes, you know, occupied in there.
Last time I saw it was 75%, but I mean, you know, they change things every day. Like now they quit paying people for the property that they're condemning.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're still not going into Laney Creek. How long has that development been there? Over 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, built to state specifications. And, it's really, we would like to have, and I know it's got engineering to do, we would like to see something done by the DOT, by the developer, that would satisfy or try to alleviate the problems with the road. A turning lane, yeah, that would help one way, but every afternoon at 3 o'clock, you're gonna have 50 cars lined up along the side of the road picking up their kids, just like at Laney Creek. They don't go into Laney Creek. They park alongside the road. It's a one-lane road, and school buses and kids are running everywhere. It's all right at Laney Creek. It's a flat, good sight road. This has a sight problem. You have a sight problem if you're coming down the road and look over the hill. If you're coming around the curve and go up the hill, you've still got a sight problem. You've got a short distance to stop. And it's going to be a problem, and I know it can be worked out, but something needs to be worked out before this thing starts. And water, Barry talked about, they're gonna have to put in a stormwater system. I agree with that, but there's 50 acres of water running across that property right now. And we have to put up with water flooding over the road. I don't know what this is gonna do when you take out the woods. It's terraced now. It absorbs a lot of water. If you funnel all that water to the creek, what's it going to do to the creek? Are we going to have water out every time? Roy's not going to be able to get out of his house. He's going to have 3 foot of water across his driveway because it's going to back up. So things like that, we would like to take this board and make sure that everything is done to the specifications to the best ability of the people that's going to do it. We don't want someone to go in there and, I'm not talking about you, but we don't want somebody just go in there and do it out of the seat of their pants. We want some engineering reports. We want everything done the best that the people can do, because we know we're not going to stop it. That's not going to happen. And after it's built, if there's a problem, then we've really got a problem. So we want it to be built in a proper way to start with. And I think, you know, from what Barry said up here tonight, he's making every effort. But, you know, we don't know anything. You know, we found out about this, when we got a letter middle of August. So the only thing that we've got, I came down, talked to the guy, he gave me a copy of the thing. I found out what was going on. The neighbors, same thing. We saw the sign up. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows how they're gonna do it. I just think a lot more openness or control by the board is what's required. Have any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is anyone else who'd like to get up and speak for or against?
Good evening. My name is Catherine Ellen, and I live in 2284 Leonard Road. I live in the house directly across the road from where the zoning notice was hammered in. Yeah, that's me. And I had addressed a number of issues at the last meeting. The first and arguably one of the more important points being the congestion that is inevitably going to occur with the building of this 86 house development. My mailbox is located across the road, so I have to cross the road to get my mail. And I'm already, you know, this hasn't even started happening yet, and I'm already scared to death to walk across the road. There's a 35-mile-per-hour sign hammered right before, or it's in the ground right before my driveway. It don't matter how many of those signs the DOT puts in the ground, people are going to go as fast as they want. There are people who go down that road. I mean, once you get down that hill, there are people who go down that road no less than 55, 60 miles an hour. And so, you know, being that this whole proposition is driven on catering to, you know, young families, obviously there's going to be a good amount of children living in this development. I have a lot of reserves. I don't think it's safe for children right now, and especially if, let's just assume that the school buses don't go into the neighborhood and they're picking up kids and dropping them off from that, you know, Leonard Road, the main road. I don't really know what else to say about it other than there's got to be something done to make sure that no one gets hit, right? Because people are going down that road too fast as it is already. Someone actually, about 2, 3 in the morning, is before I moved in, but I've got security cameras, so I saw it. Someone came around that curve so fast that they knocked my mailbox down and I had to replace it. So that should tell you how much people do not heed the speed limit on that road. Secondly, I was the one who had addressed the 20-foot buffer. And, you know, exactly what was going to be put between what I can see and, you know, the houses that are going to be directly across the road from me. And I was told that there's no legal obligation to do that, but one of the commissioners that was here on the 20th of August, I don't remember his name, but he was sitting in your seat, and he said that he did think that was a fair thing to ask. You know, regardless of how community-driven this whole proposal is, I'm not a part of that community. You know, I'm on the outside, on the other side of the road, and no matter how friendly or willing to make friends the people who move into this development are, I highly doubt they're going to want to, you know, walk out their back door into their backyard, for lack of a better term, because it's not going to be much of a backyard. It's going to be a patch of grass. I highly doubt anyone who walks into their backyard is going to want to see me across the road. You know, I do think it's fair, and I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for some sort of barrier or just some degree of privacy between me and those families in that development. And and I was assured by Mr. Siegel that, you know, all the issues that I addressed at the last meeting, he would look into those. It doesn't sound like very much headway's been made, specifically with regards to that issue. So, kind of like what Mr. Berry was just talking about, you know, I really do think it would be a good idea to figure out exactly what's going to be done before construction is started. And that's all I really have to say tonight.
You have a question for Catherine?
No, I just wanted to make a comment. I think that the last meeting that you're talking about is called a planning and zoning board. So the other group of people that
Those
was
weren't
here.
commissioners.
No, they
Okay,
were our
my
planning and zoning. They vote, and then it comes to us for us to vote.
Mhm.
And the, Mr. Berry that was up here before, part of the process to get, to learn how everything's going is what we're doing right here.
Mhm.
So just so you know, you were talking about, you know, exactly what they're doing. They are talking about that now. So whenever someone wants to rezone, they don't go to their neighbors arbitrarily and talk to them. Sometimes they do, most of the time they don't. But that's why we send a letter. That's why you are noticed of these meetings, for you to come and hear that, so.
I actually didn't, I didn't get that letter.
You should have.
Parcel 26 is addressed to 106 Ashworth Court.
Yeah, that was my mother's, and we're actually estranged right now, so I never got that letter. The only indication that I knew of what was about to go underway was the zoning notice being hammered in across the road.
Okay.
Yeah, we use the tax department's records.
Okay, if there's no questions for Catherine, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Just for the board's information, there is a 25-foot buffer that's shown on the site plan that he has submitted.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Roy Berrier. I live at 2366 Leonard Road, which is at the curve that Richard made reference to. And really the issues that I would have already been discussed, and I know you're trying to address some of these things, but just to underscore the traffic and the water situation that's down there, especially if you're considering that 20% and the use there, that's going to require some real engineering to make it happen. And where I'm coming from on that, Leonard Road at one time was just a dirt road, and when the DOT finally came through and tarred and gravelled it, at the bottom of this, at this end, right where the curve, right there, they built up the road bed high enough there, put in a bridge to go over the creek. The height of that road bed at that point in time put our driveway about 2 feet below the road bed. And this was before my time. This was when Dad was there, okay? And what happened, all the runoff from the rain came down that side of the road and right out into the pasture, flooded over the driveway. So there were some negotiations there. The state came back and helped build up the height of our driveway at that point. So it's at the same height as the road bed is now. But still, a couple times a year, the creek just can't, the tiles that are under the road can't handle the flow. So our driveway covers underwater. Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's 3 hours. You just don't really know when it's going to happen. The accidents that Richard made comments to, when that road first came through there and they paved it, they put in a bridge. And 2 or 3 times a year, somebody coming down this hill would take out right inside the bridge. They were just going too fast. The bridge was taken out several years ago, and they put 3 huge culverts under it, and that helped alleviate some of the wrecks. But we still have people coming down this hill so fast, they can't get around the curve. And they go in the creek, or as Richard pointed out, they'll go up another 50 or 100 feet, and they'll go through a fence. It's congestion there. And when you get people coming that fast, coming up the hill, there's really got to be some engineering there to address that subject. The land across from my driveway, now our driveway was built up to the level of the road. The land across from us, it's about 2 to 3 feet lower than the road surface is. So you can imagine when the water gets high enough to go over my drive, how wet that property becomes. Again, a real engineering issue or problem you're gonna have to look at to make that usable. Unless you got web feet, it's gonna be a problem. It really will be. But again, just to underscore our concerns of the traffic, how we're gonna address the numbers of cars, 85 homes and 85 families in this short piece of road, how are we gonna handle that? An engineering trial for you. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Bird. Anyone else that would like to speak for or against this rezoning request?
I'm glad somebody other than me got any experience talking about this stuff tonight. Thought I would listen for a while. 1993, December the 13th, was a Monday night. On that Monday night, a public hearing was held on the proposed 1993 zoning ordinance in the Eddie Smith Center. Tuesday night, the 14th, the commissioners met. They would have liked to have met in courtroom A, but it was undergoing renovation. Met in courtroom B. Met for a long time. They were deliberating the ordinance. There was a clustering provision in the ordinance, and Billy Joe Kepley led the charge against it. Reed Sink said, well, Billy Joe, is this like what was over so-and-so? He said, yeah. And then it just went across the board like wildfire, and they shot that thing down so quick. I think it was unanimous. By the time the 2011 ordinance was on the table, 3 of you were at the table, and the attitude on clustering had shifted 180 degrees. This litany of complaints you're hearing tonight, at the planning board, the answer to each one of them was the same 3 words: Technical Review Committee. So this ordinance from 2011 depends heavily on the Technical Review Committee. Do not punish these developers for acting in good faith on the ordinance you gave them. Now, I hope Mr. Berry is right. Nobody's going to be able to stop this thing.
Is anyone else that would like to speak for or against? I'm going to give you a chance to rebuttal. Okay, no one else coming up. You want to do a rebuttal now, Mr. Brown?
Thanks. Thank you. I'd just like to please clarify that, there's a lot of things from an engineering point of view that has to happen, okay? If approved this evening, then the engineers will begin their hard work. No one can do a development without doing all of the engineering. So there are many components that have to get addressed. There has to be coordination, okay, discussion, review, analysis that must occur between NC DOT in terms of the improvements that they're gonna require on Leonard Road, whether they be right turn lanes, left turn lanes, widening in the stretch, whatever it may be. All of those discussions must occur on the technical basis in order to get approval from NCDOT to get driveway permits. Same fashion, there has to be discussions, reviews, and approval, okay, with Davidson County Water, Lexington in terms of sewer, stormwater, discharge. All of these things have to be basically analyzed, reviewed, approved, okay, and incorporated in a final set of plans. Those are things that, as the engineers, if approved, the engineers start to work on, there will be discussions, okay, with the technical review committee and the members, the staff, okay, at various agencies, whether it be the state, federal government, if need be, okay, NCDOT, whoever it may be. So please, I'm sure everybody does understand, but please understand this is really just the beginning, if approved. There's a lot of work to be done, and I think everybody is very sensitive to the concerns, okay, and we will try to do our best to address those concerns, but the technical stuff's got to be sorted out by the engineers.
Yeah,
Thank you,
just,
Mr. Zell.
just so, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just so y'all are aware of what he just said, if DOT says in order to get that driveway, you have to put in turning lanes, it's up to him to do that to DOT standards. If DEQ, environmental says, hey, this is not gonna work because your stormwater runoff, he has to address that and fix it. But he has to get this part done before he can pay the engineers, because why would he go pay a couple $100,000 or more dollars to have engineers build it out without having this part done? Just so y'all are aware of, you know, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm just trying to help the.
Well, I just wondered if it's okay. I'll turn it back to Guy now.
Sure. We've already had one technical review committee already on this, and where we had all the engineers and the DOT and the water folks and environmental folks all at the table to review this and to get the dialogue started. And so, and we'll continue to have dialogue with that. There is a hydrography unit in Raleigh where the plans and profiles of the roads in the subdivision, as well as where they connect to the existing Leonard Road, and all of that will have to be studied by Raleigh with NCDOT. So when that driveway permit is issued, all of the stormwater runoff will be addressed, you know, by those civil engineers. But the changing conditions in this area, now while we don't have anything really of this magnitude in this area, what has sparked the potential change is the implementation of public sewer to the area, and that's why you have, once that sewer line was placed in there, it gave the opportunity for development, and with development comes improvements to the roads, so that Leonard Road will never be improved until we see more development happening along there. So as this subdivision develops over time, we would hope that DOT will be monitoring it and will widen the road and give it that first asphalt treatment instead of the tar and gravel, and perhaps make improvements to the bridges. We've had a number of bridge improvements in the county over the last 2 or 3 years, and eventually, you know, we'll see more improvements in this area. But I can tell you that the staff has reviewed the plans, and we feel that it meets all the requirements of the MXR requirements of the zoning ordinance. And so we feel that it is reasonable and consistent with the comprehensive plan to allow for residential. We'd rather see this type of development where it can be flexible, 'cause otherwise, if this is turned down, then, the property owners will seek another developer. If this particular developer walks away, they'll seek out another developer, and they may develop it as a standard subdivision, and then you won't see, I think, the flexibility and that you'll see it done more, as he called it, in a grid pattern. He may not be able to get as many lots, but I think he would get close to at least 60 to 70 lots in there under the current zoning as it is now, with sewer availability there. And he would have 15,000 square foot lots. So you would still be left, with the potential of traffic congestion. And
But you wouldn't have quite as much traffic, though, would you?
You may not, but it just depends on how many cars and so forth families have. But development can happen out there. It's just a matter of whether or not you would like to see it in a more controlled method with the HOA in place and with the flexibility and some character and design to the subdivision versus the more standard. So,
Is there any questions for, Mr. Gordon?
I'd like to say one thing. What guy was talking about the state maybe coming in eventually fixing the road, Leonard Road. That is a no right-of-way road. DOT will not come in and improve that road other than putting tar and gravel on it just like it is, because they would have to buy right-of-way on both sides of the road in order to do it, and DOT will not do it. The homeowner would have to take it, pay for bringing the road up to state specifications before they would take and consider doing anything else. I've already talked to DOT about it. Our property lines go to the middle of the road. The state only has right of way where they've got pavement.
Rebuttal, if you have any. I'll give you a chance,
All I can say is from experience, first of all, we will be dedicating additional right-of-way, on this track, if approved. But experience is that when NCDOT decides that it's in the public's best interest to make a road improvement, then they will go about making that road improvement. And if that involves them buying additional right-of-way or condemning the right-of-way, that's what NCDOT does, And so I think basically that's going to be an NCDOT decision, and I can't speak for them as to when they will do it and when they think it's appropriate to do, but they have done that many, many, many times, and I'm sure we'll continue that in the future.
All right, thank you.
I have another question.
Okay, sure.
I have another question for you about the roadway right there at the very top on Leonard Road. Was there a plan for a buffer of any kind in your plan? Yes, definitely. Just on that road.
There's a couple things that you'll see on the plan. There's a negative access easement. We have no driveways that will back up to Leonard Road. They all are internal.
Right.
And you can also see, looking at this particular development, we do have basically 3 lots that are kind of parallel to Leonard Road, and then several that back up to Leonard Road. Clearly from our side, we've got to make those lots attractive, and so we've got to treat this entire subdivision. So our plan is to build a landscape berm to provide some character to it, as well as to provide a buffer for those homeowners that are going to be backing up to the road.
Okay. And it's just to the Leonard Road?
Buffers on Leonard Road. Next to Mr. Barry, as I said, if you look at the topography, as was mentioned earlier, there is a fair bit of topographic, transition from the eastern side of this property to the western side. And in order to develop the lots and the roads and meet the standards, okay, so you don't have cliff dwellers, we will be coming in and grading the site, okay, and having certain areas of cut, certain areas of fill, certain areas of cut, and so forth. And from that regard, not only do you see a minimum building setback on the lots that adjoin Mr. Barrier's property, but you will also see, I can tell you this because I've seen preliminaries right now of the grading plans, we will have a cut, okay, on our property, as I mentioned earlier, such that those lots will be coming off of the street, which will be at a lower elevation, okay, than the existing topography, and certainly lower than Mr. Barrier. And as he mentioned earlier, and appreciative, I trust, that the water then will be running basically downhill back towards the creek. I hope it is. Thank you.
Do we have any, pictures of the project they were planning to build?
No.
If I can mention what, Ms. Watford, what you're referring to, if you approve this plan, this is the master plan before you tonight. What you're asking, Ms. Watford, is along Leonard Road, is there any buffers that are required? Mr. Siegel has said he's willing to do that, but it's not on the plan. The only thing the county can require is a 25-foot buffer down the exterior boundary, and that's on the plan. We can enforce that.
Okay.
All we have tonight is Mr. Siegel that he will do that, and I believe Mr. Siegel, but we have nothing on the plan that shows that.
Okay.
So for, MXRs, what's on the plan is what we can enforce. If it's not there, it's just word of mouth.
Thank you.
If you desire anything to be, but I have to caution you, if you desire anything to be on the plan, we have to be careful that we don't get into contract zoning, where you tell a developer, if you do this, we'll approve you. The developer would have to come up and say, I hear the request, I am willing to do this, and it would come back to you as an amended plan, and you can approve it if the board wishes to add anything to the plan. It would have to be initiated by the developer.
Keith?
I have a question.
All right, got another question.
On the roads, he brings up an interesting point of this subdivision out there being, how old is that Laney Creek subdivision?
It's at least 15, 20 years.
Huh?
It's about 20 years old.
And the roads were up to standard whenever it was built. Supposing now they occupy 75% today, and the roads are not up to DOT standards, whose responsibility is that?
Responsibility is the property owners inside of Laney Creek would have to improve the roads to the standard of the state, and then the state would come in and take it over. They'll do what they call a punch list. The state will come in and say, I want this repair, that repair, and then the property owners have to bear the burden of bringing those roads back up to the initial standards that it was built to. Then the state will take it over. That's the problem that we've had throughout the county that we're hoping that this new House bill will fix.
That's what I thought. So is there a way, in the approval process of this to require the developer, if they can't sell 75% over 20 years, to bring those roads up to standard when they do?
I don't believe so. I don't believe there's a way currently with our zoning ordinance that you can require the staff to monitor it to where we notify the property owners out there before it gets turned over to the homeowners association. From when the developer, when he's finished with a certain level, he'll turn it all over to the HOA. And at that time, most of them don't realize they're responsible for getting the road taken over. The staff, we can monitor the progress and try to assist the homeowners and the developer of getting this thing taken over before it gets destroyed over a course of 20 years, like Laney Creek. But I don't know of anything that you could put on tonight from the board's perspective. You have had an MXR in the past that the developer came up and made the initial condition himself that he was willing to put on this MXR that he would stay with the project until it was taken over by the state. Now, can we enforce that? It's in the record, it's on the plan, he had it written on the plan, but it didn't come from this board that he had to do it. He was willing to put it on as,
That's kind of what I was asking, is can we do that?
if Mr. Siegel is willing, I think, to offer that as part of his master plan, that he would be willing to see this through to getting the state to take over the roads, then the board could approve the plan.
I understand. I'm just concerned about, developments we've had in the past that
Absolutely.
the high aspirations of the developers on selling all of this property didn't take place.
Mm-hmm.
And now that, homeowners are stuck with having to fix a road, which is not, very inexpensive.
Maybe I misunderstood. I thought that's what the new state law was for,
New
to
state
put a
law,
bond.
there is a new House bill that was passed that's gonna require that a bond
Put a bond up to finish the roads off, yeah. So
stay with
Once
the
they-
state.
We're hoping that'll
My
take
understanding
care
is
of it.
that whenever they put a bond up, the bond is there for completion of the road to that standard
Mm-hmm.
at that time,
Yes.
not 20 years into the future.
Well, the House bill has a time limit that the state has to take the roads over, and it's a very short amount of time. Once the project is completed, the developer turns it over to the state. The state has, I can't remember the bill, I want to say 30 days, but it's got to be longer than that.
That's fine, so the amount of homes that are sold is no longer.
No longer an issue. It's being challenged by the DOT. That's why I didn't want to throw it out there that don't worry about it, because if the DOT does rebuff this,
The homeowners would be protected.
yes, if this goes through. If the Attorney General said this is it.
we've talked about this before, and if the state don't do that, then that's something the county needs to do, is require a bond back to us to get the roads completed, so. But I like the state bill, so.
Can I ask, just if you clarify, wouldn't that also be true under the RA3?
Yes, for any development, for any roads that are turned over, yes.
Scott, have you seen any pictures of what this complex supposed to look like?
No, I have not.
Is anybody?
You just have a set of blueprints once the engineer has designed it, and he hadn't got to that point yet because it hadn't been approved, so.
This is the way it's been.
Yeah, you wouldn't
since we
pay
started
it.
approving anything.
Well, I don't like proving things I don't know what I'm approving.
You're talking about the homes themselves, the houses?
I've seen some neighborhoods with a lot of homes in it, or a lot of houses, let me say.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other
Some of them
questions?
nice, some of them not so nice.
I understand.
Some of them cost the citizens of the county to keep them up, to provide services to them, and some of them are contributors to our society. That's what I'm concerned about. And most places, in response to what we just said, most zoning requests that come with us come with photos of what we're looking at. I don't remember any that didn't have some photos of what we were looking at.
And that is something that you have the right to table the request and ask for. I mean, that's not a contract zoning. You can ask for examples of product that would be produced and.
Well, before you approve a zoning request like this, I want to know what kind of homes I'm putting beside these people here. They have a right. They live in that neighborhood. You know, they work for their stuff. I don't want to put Tent City out there.
You said between $230,000 and $300,000?
Yeah.
So that gives me a pretty good idea of what.
What kind of house it's gonna look like.
I like to see what they look like.
The same thing I think to keep in mind, I'm sorry, the thing to keep in mind is that if we don't approve this, they can put the subdivision in there anyway, and they don't have to do all that.
I agree.
Okay.
And that's the same problem we're
But
running.
that's what Guy said, it's gonna be developed one way or the other, and how do we want it developed?
In reading his, restrictive covenants, to me, it was more of the, upscale. I want, something that you would feel proud of in this particular subdivision.
You can't discriminate, so.
No.
No. Mr. Chairman, I think
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm more than happy to do one of several things. We can, this evening, if the commission so desires, within 2 minutes, pull up the website of Royal Homes and let you look at the homes. We are also agreeable, if the commission so decides, to postpone a final decision on this and come back at the next meeting with pictures, okay, or computers showing you, the homes as well. So, whatever the, commission so desires.
Oh, here you go.
Thank you, Mr. Siegel.
But I got a question. If he shows us a picture and then decides later to put a different type home on there, there's nothing by law that we could do to stop him from putting a different style home. Is that right?
Correct.
Can I just mention, if you're gonna pull up the website, if you look at our community Deerfield Crossing, that is the most recent community. That is the best example of what those homes look like, if you'd like to see them.
Is this,
Deerfield Crossing.
Is this,
It's Royal Homes of NC.
Yeah, is that a fair representation of what you plan to build out there?
Absolutely.
And which one did you say, Glen?
Deerfield Crossing. Deerfield Crossing.
Debbie's getting ready to pull it
Is the
up.
most recent. That's a subdivision we're doing in High Point right now off of Fame Road. And that's the same product type. We have 3 product types, a Monarch, a Noble, and another product type. And you can see all 3 of those on the website.
Where's it at on the website?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't use that web.
If it's
I don't-
hold
on.
I could look at it and tell you, but I can't tell you without seeing it. Deerfield Crossing. If I could see it, I could point it out to you, but I can't tell you without looking at it.
We've got it.
Thank you.
Well, what I just saw was nice.
I'd like to comment based on what Guy said about somebody's gonna build a subdivision. I know a subdivision is gonna be built there. I think Barry has got a great plan for a subdivision. We, as neighbors, we have questions, and that's what we want answered. The times I've met Barry, he's a heck of a nice guy, and I think he does what he says. But we want to know. There's a lot of other people in the neighborhood. I'm a real estate appraiser. I do project developments. I understand what is required.
Well, they're gonna be in the low 300.
So, I want everybody to understand that we're down here tonight so we can try to protect what we have. You know, it's like he said, we don't want a tent city beside of us. And we don't, as it is now, I'm getting water over my septic system. He's getting water over his driveway. We don't want it to get any worse. We've figured out how to live with it the best we can, but anything else is gonna disrupt it and it's gonna make it worse. So we're just trying to make sure that it does not get worse and it's improved, because like I say, I think myself and everybody else in there, and I've told the people in the neighborhood, you meet the regulations, everything to put the subdivision in, you're gonna put the subdivision in. Just because you don't want it, and I don't want it, I'll be the first to tell you, I got 1,200 feet of property beside of it. But I can't stop it. I can't come down here and tell you I don't want it. I don't think that's gonna take and change anybody's mind. We're just looking at the actual problems that we see that could happen over the subdivision. And I don't mean any ill will to Barry, and I hope he doesn't have any ill will to me or any of the neighbors. We're concerned.
Thank you. Guy, you got anything else?
I would just, point out that, policy 6.1, 6.2, 6.6, and 6.10 of the land development plan does, give support to the proposed rezoning to MXR. Again, I pointed out that the, trigger to this for, future residential development is the, installation of the public sewer line. It does allow in the proposed district to have up to 4.0 lots per acre, but he is proposing 2.3 acres, or 2.3 units per acre. Again, I think that the flexibility of the MXR allows for a more character in the design of the subdivision and than what you would get with a straight residential subdivision. So that's why staff recommended approval.
Okay. Okay, it's back to the board now.
So can I get a motion to approve or deny this, request from Mr. Seizures?
Do you think you'll have a,
Oh, we got more questions.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Do you think you'll have something in the HOA where they can only rent their property out for maybe 6 months at a time?
We have presented a draft of the HOA documents, and we have no problem incorporating that if the statutes would in fact permit that, and that's something I had heard somewhere in the past, that was questionable whether or not you could do that, perhaps.
Forgive me, but the county manager, you were asking about the restriction on renting, is that correct? I was doing a little research on that after you raised the question, and it was, if I might, it was saying a high rental percentage can have a direct negative economic impact on the neighborhood, which was certainly consistent with what you were saying. A restriction on the number of leased or rented units of lots permitted within a development is a common element of many modern governing documents, such as a homeowners association. There are two basic types of lease restrictions. One type limits the total number of leased restrictions within a development. The other type requires all new owners to live in the residence for a specified time. I was looking at the proposed homeowners agreement, which is in the documents, and I believe the page is missing which speaks specifically to the obligation of residency. Page 17 doesn't seem to be within the agenda packet. But I suspect from the statement that you made earlier that it was not anticipated to be an element of concern, and so probably is not addressed in your homeowners association bylaws. So yes, it's my perception that it could be included there, and I don't know from the document that has been tendered unless.
I think I found page 17.
Okay. In the agenda packet, page 17 was missing.
Okay, who was in charge of page 17?
And what I was looking there was under the restrictions, section 1 under article 7 talks about residential use. And it says all of the lots shall be restricted exclusively to single-family residential use.
There's some language in there about rental.
Yeah, and so it.
Wouldn't that be a call to the homeowners association whether they would want to allow rental or not?
Yeah, because there's no homeowners.
Well, what typically happens is the builder is over the homeowners association. They have very limited control until the very last parcel in there is sold. So if he's still building 30 years from now, he still controls the HOA until that last parcel's sold. And at that point, the HOA can then make changes. But most of the time, you have enough of them on the board of directors that prevents them from trying to lease it out.
Do you have a description? Do you have a description when the homeowners association takes this over? Does it address how many lots it has to be sold or any of that nature?
Is that how yours is set up, Barry, where you control it until the last parcel?
Pretty much so, yes. And to be very specific, we do not have we do not take exception with the recommendation, and we have, if in fact there's appropriate language, we would be more than happy to let our attorney who has drafted those documents and drafted others coordinate, with the county attorney in the review of those final documents. And typically, at least in other cities that we've developed,
Before anything can be recorded, the county attorney or the city attorney would have to sign off on those documents, and I certainly will state this evening that, we would not take exception to it, and we would endorse language that is permissible by law, because we believe the intent is that this is going to be a for-sale community. We certainly do not want to do anything that's going to devalue, the community or devalue any homes anywhere else. But at the same time, we do recognize, and I do appreciate the language, that there are going to be certain circumstances in which a family may in fact need to move for a year or two. And I think the language that you, Mr. Attorney, pointed to, that will have limitations as to the number of would probably be appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. I fully agree that there are times where things come up and they need to, so.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. With that, Mr. Chairman, unless somebody else has anything, I'm ready for a motion.
Any more comments?
I'm
ready for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, make a motion to approve this, over to MXR.
Got a motion to approve this, request. Do I have a second? Beg your pardon?
There's a resolution on
Yeah.
state metro.
Yeah, my voice got a little light, but
And
that's
the
what I
statement
said, yeah.
consists- Yeah. Do I have a second?
I second.
Got a motion and a second, all right. Cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 6-0.
Mr. Siegel, you got it.
You need a motion to go to closed session, Mr. Chairman?
Let's see, is that next now? Yeah, closed session.
I gotta check out that 1701.
We gotta,
You got what?
I gotta
we
check
gotta
out
go
the
to number 1701.
session. Sharon Watford makes a motion that we come into open session.
She made the motion, I made the second.
Made a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. There's 4 out here. 5. You good? Yes, sir. So we need Chuck,
Well, we need Zach to make sure. Okay, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Chairman, the, board considered 2 matters in closed session under attorney-client. For both of those matters, the board gave direction for further negotiation. Thank you.
Okay.
Move adjourned.
Got a motion and a second to
Got you.
Mr. Hill, how are you, sir?
Papers in there.